excited.
everyone. We are on. Today is March the 28th, 2024. This is our first meeting of the Pay and Benefits Ad Hoc Committee. We're officially open, and we'd like to take and record roll. If there are any other county employees that need to sign in, we do have a sign-in sheet up here. And we will, hey, Andy. We are ready to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second. Awesome. Are there any public comments?
I would possibly like to sit on the committee if possible.
Please, join us. Joining us is Commissioner for the 2nd District,
That's correct.
Mr. Roger Chambers. Are there any other public comments? No? Okay, seeing as there are none, one of the big things for this, since it is an ad hoc committee, and our first meeting is the committee appointments. We do need a chair and a secretary. So we will start with the chair appointment.
I make a motion we make Holly Jones chair. Done bad?
Are
You
there any
did
other
a great job,
motions?
so-
Well, thank you.
Well, I nominate, I don't think, I nominate.
Are there any other nominations?
I was gonna ask if we could put it off to all the members are here because,
We
how
are
many,
missing-
how many were we missing? Three?
Three. I guess.
Cause that may not be fair to. And you're leaving.
Definitely one. We're definitely missing one, Commissioner Hobbs.
There's
I'm
one
not
name missing from the, there's one name missing because there was 9.
Yeah.
The 12th of March, and now there's only 8.
Okay, so we can table it. So do we have to vote on that to table it until the next meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Okay.
take a motion. Well, I
Motion?
didn't say I make the motion, I said, yeah, it takes a motion.
It takes a motion. Do I have a motion to table committee appointments until our next meeting, which we will decide on in 2 items on the agenda?
I'll make a motion to table it until all the members are here.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Awesome, thank you all. Next item on the agenda is just our plan of action. So I think everyone in their packet, on the second page, you have our purpose for this committee convening and getting together. I hope everyone's had enough time to look over that. And any ideas going forward, how we can best and most effectively meet this goal?
So with the employee pay scales, we're looking at coming up with a process for the departments and the county commission to follow going forward. We're not actually looking at, or my understanding, we're not actually looking at individual departments' pay, correct?
That is my understanding.
Okay.
Just, yes.
So, like on the first one, employee pay scales, are we looking at trying to come up with departments' starting pays? So for new hires, or I mean, where are we, I'm just asking where we're going.
Let's talk about it.
Okay.
I think, like you said, it's not X department starts out at
Right.
$20 an hour. I think mainly the pay scale is, like the avenue and the protocol in how they are going to progress. And and receive more money, along the way, along their tenure here. Heather, do you have anything, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, like, do you have any comment on that?
No, I mean, no, not really. I mean, we, of course, have nothing in place like that now at all.
What you're talking about may not be a starting pay, but once you're hired, this is, what he's trying to allude to, I guess, this is the scale you'll be paid at, or, yeah, this is the way you'll be paid as far as raises and what you make and stuff like that.
Or the process to
The process
get
to
an
get to
employee
that.
a pay
You're right.
increase, right?
Because we've got so many employees that's way underpaid right now, like the library people, $12.40 an hour. You can't pay your bills on $12.40 an hour. So what I'd like to see, I mean, and I'll be maybe out of line by saying this, is we need to look at each department and see what their pay is and get them raised up where they should be, because Sheila's office is also underpaid. She needs qualified people, which they put in for the job, but I think her starting pay is $16 an hour somewhere.
That's a little more now, but yeah, it has been. I do agree there are different, departments that some have gotten a raise and some have not, or have gotten their people up to where they should be. And I guess it's the same thing that the question I have, like, we're not coming up with numbers, but maybe a system to, or are we comparing ourselves to other counties? I mean, what is it that we're doing? I mean, like Bedford County, for example, I've heard that they have a fairly recent, salary study. Could we look at something like that? I think they're comparable to our size. Murfreesboro is definitely moving their way as well as ours. Maybe that's something we look at.
I think I think you hit it right. I think we're looking at the system, we're not looking at the
System.
dollar amount. This is a system that we recommend,
Okay.
and I guess you could punch in your dollar, each department could probably punch in their dollar amount. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take over, but I mean, I would like to hear from the department heads, like,
Right.
how much is the library, I mean, if you look at, for instance, let's say Bedford County, how much are you off? I mean, is maybe Chancery's okay, maybe this one, I think there are some departments that are probably out of whack. I think it would be nice to hear from them, or them submit something to us so we can say, okay, what are we talking about?
Miss Vaughn from the library's here. Do you have any idea what Bedford County or Franklin County or surrounding counties make at their library?
Those libraries are smaller than ours.
Okay.
If we were to compare our libraries to libraries of similar sizes, I don't know how far we would be off, but I feel like we need to look more inward, because we're not competing against those libraries, we're competing against the people who wanna go work at Zaxby's, cause they can make 15. Can't hire decent people if they wanna go work at Zaxby's.
So if we get this salary study and it says that, of course, Heather don't have anybody working in her office, which she needs to have some help, but if they say $16 an hour is their starting pay, and we're paying people 12, are we gonna bump these people from 12 up to 16 to start, or are we gonna go over 16 because they've been working there for years, way underpaid?
Well, that's kinda where I'd like to start with the departments as far as new hires. Okay, what is your, like, with Sheila and, the department heads, what is your starting pay? And I know we have some people that we can't hire, like at the sheriff's office, that, may have certifications and other things that they may not be able to hire them in at that rate. But the county needs a scale that says, okay, you can go up to this amount to hire someone based on these qualifications, that to get these qualified employees. Does that make sense?
Maybe a basic scale for the whole.
A basic scale
for the
for
whole
new
county,
hires.
For new hires.
So if Chad's trying to hire in an investigator and his starting pay is $18 an hour, but this guy has FBI qualifications, you know, TBI certifications, the stuff that he's not gonna have to pay for to get this guy up to speed, he may can offer 22, something like that, but he couldn't exceed a certain amount. That would start the new hires, and then you go to the current employees.
So you bump the current employees up?
Well, that's
You're
the
almost gonna have
question.
to. You can't hire somebody new in and pay them $16, $18 an hour when you got people working for 14.
But that's what we're doing now.
That's,
That's what we're trying to alleviate is we gotta start at the beginning and then focus on current employees. Because you have to have a starting point to know where your current employees fall. So, I mean, I went to other counties, smaller counties, just like y'all were asking with Bedford County, you know, we're $4 an hour or $4,000 a year behind Franklin County, Bedford County, Lincoln County for my office. So, you know, if I need to hire a new employee, I know what I need to hire them in at, but then I gotta know how much to adjust my older employees to exceed
Right.
that beginning pay. And that's where we don't know. With the, I mean, not to throw any department under the bus, but with the increase with the animal control, you know, we've got employees that's been here for 5, 10, up to 30 years that make less than what Budget and Finance just approved their starting pay. And, you know, that to me is a problem.
Well, every department needs to come in this year with a budget with an increase in their salaries for the employees because they're way underpaid. We can't fix it until we fix the problem that we have. Like the library employees making $12 an hour, you can't, and you didn't say that, but we can't fix a starting pay at, just say, $15 an hour when they're making 12, so we need to bump everybody. When we fix the problem and come up with a salary, then we need to bump everybody that's underpaid up to that starting point or over because they've been here for years.
Right. But that's where I started with my leading question. The department heads could do that during the budget process. We're only looking at a process going forward. Once that's fixed, what happens going forward? Am I missing it?
No, not at all. The goal for this committee is to provide framework.
Right.
So, yes, no, you're not missing it at all.
Okay.
I believe some departments have done a salary study. I don't know when the most recent was. like
We've
all of
done
them.
salary studies, several salary studies over the years, just different departments. When we were personnel and comp, before it was policy and procedures, departments did all kinds of studies with different counties and got pay.
But they've never used them, right?
No.
They throw them in the garbage.
I think the last one was done right before I got on commission, is that correct?
Well, the last one,
It was in 14.
14,
14?
the first year got implemented partially,
Partially.
but the county commission couldn't fund the couple of $1 million to fix the employees where they needed to be. So the second year, it just kind of went away. And that's always been the problem when you decide what the libraries, what it's gonna cost a year to increase them. For all the departments, it comes up to hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars to fix it. And, you know, I know we're in better financial times now, but back then, they had, you know, $500,000 fund balance, they couldn't approve a $2 million salary adjustment.
No, I wouldn't think so.
But, you know, now we might be able to, over a 1 to 2 to 3 year period, fix some of those problems.
Well, the fund balance is up now, so the county needs to fix the problem. Pay it, be done with it, and get everything rolling smooth, like it should be. And so I'm gonna ask all the department heads to put in for pay raises for their employees this year. if they're listening
So,
to this meeting, put in for the pay raises, and Heather needs help in her office, she needs to put in for an extra employee in her budget. And let's fix it.
what I think what I'd like to see is maybe with all the departments, a little consistency whenever they hire somebody new hire. Say, one department's paying, starting them out at $10 an hour, another starting out at $16 an hour.
Right.
So what I would like to see is a basic rate across all departments. Saying if you get, for any new hire, you know, the county's gonna start you out at this amount. Now, depending on what department you're in and what qualifications you bring to that department, then that department head can,
Right.
like you're saying,
Yeah.
can raise it to see fit. But I think first off, we gotta determine
What that is.
what that basic
Right.
figure is, what that starting figure is, and after that, you said something about a cap. Maybe we can, you know.
But I think we're going back to numbers, and we're
Right.
avoiding the numbers.
Right.
Not really a number, it's just if the libraries bring something to us and say, okay, you know, we would like to have a $15 an hour starting pay. The policy going forward be, you can hire somebody in at that, but if you have someone that you're bringing in with a college degree that's gonna be doing accounting work or other stuff other than just library work, you could, as a department, say, okay, I can increase that to a percentage. Just give
Okay.
all departments that percentage that they could go up. If they needed to go over that, they would have to come back to a committee to get approval to go over what the policy says. If that makes sense. Does that make sense to y'all? No? Thank you.
I think every department is so different though, like,
Yep.
you know, my department is gonna have totally different requirements for the sheriff's department or for the library. So, I mean, if you give, let's just say you say $16 an hour, I couldn't hire anybody at $16 an hour.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm
But
saying
you
the
can offer
libraries has
more.
a starting pay, you have a starting pay, the sheriff's department has a starting pay, but the sheriff's department's got road deputies, you know, different positions that'll have starting pay. All we're trying to do is say, by department, we have a number that you can hire somebody in. If you as a department head have to exceed that because you need somebody with a college degree, for youth services or courts, you know, if Sheila has to hire somebody in that's got legal experience, she may not be able to get that person at $20 an hour, she may have to go up to 24. But you have to set that cap where the departments can go to, without approval. Because if not, you're gonna have them saying, well, you know, I can go up to $30 an hour. That would be kind of the process. So maintenance would have their own starting rate for supervisor worker, but if you needed somebody that was an electrician, not just a, you know, go out and paint or do something like that, then the policy would give you that flexibility.
X percentage
Yeah.
incrementally to
Now, does that make more sense?
increase already established
And I'm just speaking
starting
on
pay.
my behalf. Like, we kind of already have that, like, when I go to Heather and, you know, we talk about hiring somebody, that's kind of already built in. I think, as a department head for me, like, and probably more like what she's thinking of, we're looking for a process of, like, all my employees have been here for 7, 15 years, whatever, and they've been underpaid for so long because there's nothing been a process. So I think we're looking for a process of, like, if I have an employee that's, let's just say he's $1.50 underpaid right now, we get him back up to $1.50, but moving forward over the next, you know, however many years we need to keep him, so there needs to be something in process to where, as a department head, if he's doing a good job or he's, you know, working past his expectations, that the department heads need to be able to, you know, give them something to motivate them or keep them going. Like right now, we have this, everybody gets 4%. Well, that's, if I got 4 employees, they all know they're getting 4%. It doesn't motivate anybody to work any harder. I just feel like there needs to be something to where the department heads can give an employee, if he's working over and way beyond his means and blowing everybody else out of the water, then it would be nice to be able to give that person something.
So what you're kinda saying, if we come up with a percentage to give for each department head, you can put that money to where you think best suits.
Yes, and have paperwork backing it up.
And
Have
I-
paperwork backing it up, yeah, right.
I apologize, that's where I was going to next step.
Yeah,
I was trying to.
We're just trying to get
I
initial
was trying to
starting.
get initial,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
You want to speak?
No, please.
Madam Chair, I wasn't gonna speak, but I
I'm
see
glad you are.
that you're trying to get a baseline of where this committee needs
Right.
to go. Do you mind if I give you a
Please.
couple of my points on this?
Please.
So, you're trying to come up with a structure,
Yes, sir.
a frame. We're digging a foundation tonight, right? So, questions are, and Mr. Barrett brought up some good points. What this committee needs to look at is, are you going to look at every department individually, okay? Because everybody's job duties are different. Mine are a lot different than the library's, mine's a lot different than county maintenance, mine's a lot different than Ms. Sheila's department. So you have to say, all right, are we going to build this foundation, or are we gonna look at everybody's departments differently? If we decide to look at each department differently, then each department, we have to figure out, all right, is there gonna be a step and grade scale? Is it gonna be a merit-based pay, sort of like what Rick was talking about, to go for the departments? Or is it gonna be strictly independent, sort of like where we're at? And each department head comes to budget and finance and the governing body of the county individually to look for needed monies. Because, I will give an example in the law enforcement field. It seems like we are in a rat race currently with our neighboring agencies. But Sheila's department may not be in a rat race with like-minded departments. So my suggestion is look at what foundation you want to start. And we've been down the step and grade system before. The step and grade is great. But in 4 years, the body that created that step and grade could completely change, and you're stuck at 1.5%, which is nowhere near cost of living. So I was a big proponent to do away with the step and grade, because our step and grade that we had 4 years ago basically had not been adjusted for cost of living since 2007. That's how dormant and complacent that the governing body had gotten, and we'd gotten so far out of whack. That's caused us, the individual department heads, to come to you, the governing body, and beg and plead and compare. And yes, I get where the body and the mayor want to pull everything kind of together, but pulling everything together, we fail together, if that makes sense. So in my thought process for you, is what is our baseline? Is our baseline, are we looking at forming a step and grade system? If we're gonna form it back into a step and grade system, are we gonna do it as a whole, which I think is about impossible? Or are we going to look at it for each department differently? Now, in emergency services, are you gonna group sheriff's office, EMS, and EMA together, and 911? Are you gonna look at the clerical groups together? And I may have said that wrong. Let's just say the clerk offices. At one time, all those were together, but each one of those have come, and they have different. And then you've got the ones that are under the mayor's purview, so to speak, the appointed department heads. Where do they lie? So that's, I think, where this committee needs to look and go, this is the direction we need to go. Or do we look at what the state of Tennessee does? Now, the state pretty much has step and grade, and the governing body, the state legislature, looks at the cost of living. Folks, all I ask is if, as we go through this, and I will try to be as present as often because of the number of employees I have, but I'm gonna respect what comes out of this committee. The thing that has killed us for years and years, many of us, Andy, a lot of us in this room have lived for 30 years in county government. We've seen salary study after salary. I'm doing a salary study for my division in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Matter of fact, I probably got it on, probably got a current one on my phone. Is the cost of living. That fluctuates. And as we get in to whether we get growth or no growth or what expands, at the end of the day, it's what you have in the bank to pay us. And we've lived a lot of years, have we not, Andy, to where they didn't really have the money to pay us the 1.5%. So we, as a employee and as a department head, I wonder, well, number one, what's our future looking like for revenues? Can we afford to do a step and grade? And if you do a step and grade, what's the percentages? Think about percentages. But also you gotta look at job duties, titles, and education, and hazards. Those were a lot of weight in that. But my opinion was, talk about what your foundation wants to be first, and the numbers will get plugged in later because the accountants will come in and plug the numbers, so to speak. But I would look at the format of what type of structure you want. Do you want the step and grade? Do you want the merit-based step and grade? Or do you just want pure, solely merit-based raises or no raises, so to speak? If that makes sense.
Or the department head makes that
Well,
decision.
and then, Commissioner Summerfield, you get into the, I'm not gonna throw the constitutional offices to you, but technically as the sheriff, I can agree or disagree with you. Because technically, once the county passes a budget for me and the other constitutional offices, it's the bottom amount of number, and how we realign that in there, you can policy it to death, but yes, I always come and say, I wanna do this, and that's just out of courtesy. But if you get into legalities, you have to look at what the law allows for the constitutional offices to be allowed to do compared to the appointed offices. I want it what's fair for all county employees, but I can't allow people that work under me and the duties they do our duties are completely different than EMS. My duties are completely different than circuit court clerks, or register deeds, or trustees, or whatever, election commission. So I have to take that into consideration, and then the biggest thing that I have to take into consideration is what we have to do for retainment. That's where we're at, that's what's brought us in here, is retainment. Do we look at how the other departments, the other municipalities, the other counties, what have they done for retainment? Well, each time we go up, they call an emergency meeting and they go up. And you know what that's really doing to all of us and the taxpayers watching on camera? It's called inter-county inflation. Where's the debt ceiling gonna be on this? Because I'm paying for it out of my pocket too. And the young folks that work for me, time they pay their insurance, and there's nothing left. And we just keep inflating, and we may be cutting our nose off to save our face at certain times. And what we gotta do is look and work with our two municipalities, because that's our two competitors. Each time they inflate, it's causing me to inflate. Matter of fact, there was a quote, I heard something about a flag going up, so it's a declaration of war on me. Well, I'm ready to do battle. But we have to get a structure. And you've got to figure out what's best, and we at one time, what we have, 4 different pay scales, Heather?
Yes.
Yeah.
You
And
do.
so let's ask that question. We gotta know our history before we know our future. Why did we have those 4 different pay scales? It started out as one, well, it's because duties of the job were different. And it quagmired, it locked down, and it just sealed us off, so different department heads had to pull out and create their own pay scale. that seemed to work, and we still, in my department, still look at those old pay scales to kind of give us a guidance of percentages of where somebody's at. But at the end of the day, this is what your starting pay is, and we're at the mercy of the governing body of what percentage they're gonna give us every year if we get one.
And there's no way around that.
There's no way around that, yes, sir, that's right.
So-
But if you do go, you've really got to give information as to, you can see that, plug those numbers in, and that's good for maybe 2 years. But inflation and cost of living, I've never seen cost of living go down. It goes up every year, and then you get so much, and I know we're looking at a decent percentage this year proposed by the mayor. But can we sustain it? And can you sustain the guaranteed and the stepping grades? And that's the reason I just said, hey, we've got to back up and do away with the stepping grades, and it was on us department heads to individually come and state our case. Does it act like a cutthroat thing for me to the library? Yeah, it does, but it's not. I may not be hurting as bad as the library this year, or I might not be hurting as bad as Miss Sheila's office this year, or EMS. And some years, there's folks that are gonna go up, it's a seesaw thing. But I know the state just kinda has set the trend with the way things go, and if that's the case, then maybe we need to look at the state's system. And then what you plug in there is, well, that's gonna be what the mathematicians do, but, I hope I didn't confuse that thought too much.
No, not at all, thank you.
Where I was trying to go with that is, right now, we know we've got underpaid people. We don't know within the departments how bad that is. So if each department came up with a starting pay, at least now we know that right now, we're gonna start off paying somebody $16 an hour. This is after we get done with the scale. Afterwards, the departments now know how far behind each employee is versus where the starting pay right now is. If that makes any sense.
You're saying a minimum starting,
Yes,
just a minimum starting?
Yes.
And you can go up
cause
from there?
Because right now, I mean, this department comes to budget finance and says, well, I need more money starting pay. But budget finance doesn't realize what that does to other departments, long-term employees. All they do is base it on that conversation there and the money available. If budget finance, if we have a policy that says, you know, register of deeds, trustee, property assessor, the elected officials there, their starting pay is this, and then you go down to emergency sheriff's office, they're always gonna know where the other departments fall. So if I come in and say, well, I need to bump mine to $20, well, now register of deeds, and then if they approve mine, you know, they may need to be bumped up too. So you always know where you're starting. Now you have to go forward
As a group.
as a
You're just
group.
grouping them up, yeah.
But like Chad said, you gotta do it by different offices.
Right.
You can't have one. So sheriff's department has their, different
Just say
operations.
emergency services has.
Yeah, so they know what their starting pay is for road deputies. So if they have a 20-year employee, if that starting pay goes up to $18 and they've got a 20-year employee that's at 12, Chad knows he's got a problem. Right now, we don't know where the problem is because every department's getting paid totally different.
So it's basically up to the department head and the
Yeah,
elected
and
officials
it's
to
still good.
identify that problem.
And it's still gonna be in the end, once a process gets done, it's still gonna be, you're at the mercy of the county commissioner, how much money they got. But at least now, we have a process that we know where people start dollar-wise, and then that gets adjusted yearly by the increase. I'm just talking. Y'all can tell me to shut
whatever.
up.
No, I think you're making great points.
And like I say, whatever gets recommended, whatever structure or whatever we,
Yeah, I don't
You know-
think anybody wants to go back to second grade.
no.
Yeah, but I think we need a starting point, that way we know where all our employees fall
And it don't need to be set in stone, it needs to be reviewed
every year.
every year, or every 2 years for cost of
Right.
living.
You know, I mean, I just think we gotta start somewhere. So coming up with starting pay by department is a good place to start.
Then we can go from there.
Yeah. And, you know,
Now, I know we're talking about money, I mean, about figures, and we're not supposed to be talking about
Right,
figures.
no,
But-
we're talking about it differently. No,
But you
that's,
gotta have-
that, they have to have their number.
Right,
And
right.
your number's not my number, but then
Right.
we can talk about percentages to up it. No,
Right.
that makes sense to me. No, that's perfect.
but the departments right now, they have a budget. And like with mine, I have 2 employees, full-time employees. If one of those leaves, I have a certain amount of money that I can hire a new person in at. Well, nowadays, I'm probably gonna hire them in at that person that was making 30 years, 30-year employee, because that's just what the times have done. But the problem is that 30-year employee is the one that got left out all these years.
Right. So coming up with a starting figure for each department, and then when that 30-year employee leaves, you can always, when you hire back.
Yeah, but nowadays,
But it still gives you flexibility.
Yeah, in my department, it may not be a big deal, but in courts and sheriff's department and somebody where they
Yeah.
need trained individuals,
Right.
or the departments need that flexibility that they can, if the old employee left making 37 and they need to hire this person in at 42, it shouldn't be a huge ordeal to justify that. If that makes sense. I'll be quiet and let y'all talk.
No.
Okay, so what I'm gathering, our first plan of action is to reach out to all department heads and have them come up with their starting pay for their employees.
Yeah, starting pay and classifications of employees.
Okay.
Most are gonna have a chief deputy and then deputies,
Okay.
where, EMS and sheriff's department may have different. And kind of where that starting salary needs to be.
Where it should be, not what it is, where it
Right,
should be.
where it
Okay?
should be.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else to add to that for our first step?
Could you read that last part back again? So you're wanting what their starting pay what they would like in the classifications and where it should be?
Not where it is now, so like for library, if theirs is $15, but they think it should be, given like their market research, if it should be at 17, we want that from them.
Would it be helpful to just have an estimate of what it is now? Like how far off, if they think they should be at 15 and they're at 12 now, just to kind of get a glimpse of maybe the library's not so good, maybe my office is okay right now. I mean, I'm just kind of curious, how out of whack are we? The sheriff department think they're so many dollars off, whatever that is. I don't know. It's just a glimpse,
Mhm.
because,
Yeah, instead of just saying everybody's got to hire them in at this amount, like I said, each department's different.
all right,
So, and they may be way lower than you.
right.
So, and we may not, I'm just saying, as an example, may not need to address your starting,
Right.
but we may need to address theirs. And
I think that there are, just based on the last few years, departments that some were able to get a bump and some have been telling me they're left behind, and I get it,
Right.
and they're more dire than maybe mine is this year.
Right.
And I'm like, put it in your budget. That's what I tell them, put it in your budget. If you're behind, fix it. This is your year.
Right.
Anybody else? Is everybody good with that way ahead? Beginning way ahead?
Well, if y'all don't mind me saying something.
Please, go.
That's just my opinion. We need to start at the beginning and then work our way forward. And the ending result is the departments know where they're at now. Because right now, nobody know, everybody says people are underpaid, but we don't know how bad. Because we have no starting pay and justification that, okay, if this person's starting here, they've been here 30 years and they're under that, now we have a dollar amount to get them over that. That the departments can take to budget and finance and justify it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's important, and, you know, one of our goals is to provide competitive compensation, so I think that's a good just baseline to get started with this.
Right.
Awesome. Okay, well, anyone else? Future meeting dates and times. Are there times that just absolutely, dates and times that absolutely do not work for folks? And if we wanna just set the next meeting and then discuss a further way ahead, after next meeting, we can do that as well.
If you're gonna sit it on a Thursday before, well,
Cause
we
we
need
need
to,
the last one,
we need to, probably need to, instead of 4, I don't know, probably need to go back a little earlier because we're gonna get into budget and finance or whoever.
Right.
you know, And several of us are on.
multiple.
two of us. So,
You talking about earlier, like earlier time? 'Cause
well, I mean, if we do meet before budget and finance, it probably needs to be, 3:30 instead of 4. So that would give us time to discuss.
So,
but then
Or I
some,
mean, another day, I
Or-
don't, it's fine.
then some people's got jobs, they can't take off
right.
at
so
3:30, or they have to take off earlier than 3:30 to
That's
get here.
true. Well, I agree, I'm just throwing that out there.
I
We're
know
gonna put it for
people-
another meeting.
Probably don't like to meet on Fridays, but I have to see it, like I can't just look at my phone, I have to see it out. So I went through and did all the meetings for April, May, and June, and there's nothing on a Friday, and there's fewer things on Wednesdays. But I know folks
Wednesday'd be fine with me. I
don't
know.
Wednesday's
particularly
fine.
like to meet on Fridays.
Wednesday's fine.
Wednesday's
So,
fine.
I'd rather meet Wednesday than Friday.
Yes. So, I mean, it's a week, I will be out of town for work, the week of the 8th. If you all want to get together Wednesday, April 3rd, would that work for everyone? I know that gives us just less than a week to kinda look into all of this, but
Yeah.
is everybody, is that okay with everybody?
Wednesdays would be better anyway, because budget and finance meetings are Thursday night, so then we could have what,
Too much to ask from departments to come up with that in a week? No,
Okay.
For me, it would be,
It would on-
a starting pay for different positions?
I'm out of town all next week, so I may be able to get you something, cause we already have a little bit, but if it's kind of rough, it's not gonna be real.
Are y'all different?
Are y'all different,
Is each library on a different
on
pay?
a different
No.
pay?
No, we're kind of about the same.
Okay.
Okay, so Wednesday the 3rd, there is, a highway meeting at 3, so
That's all
could
right.
we do
We can do,
4 again next
Well-
week?
Is there anybody on the
I would
highway
ask Tina,
meeting?
because
I don't- it
she's
was
the one
just
has to
on
take
the-
off work.
Is there
yeah,
anybody?
y'all the workers, I'm
Yeah.
coming 10 in the morning if you want to.
Or we could
Well, we
do-
have 2 conference rooms too.
Yeah, I mean, or we could even go in the main, so.
Right, so we can do, you
Is
can do 4 or
3:30
5?
Yeah.
work for you, or
3:30.
4 or 5, or 3:30 is fine? Okay, so our next meeting will be April 3rd, that's a Wednesday at 3:30. and then we'll discuss additional future meeting dates at that time.
Okay.
Hopefully, other people have better ideas.
No, I think it was a great idea. But yes, so I just did some, just really quick searches, just trying to, get my mind right. I looked online just to see Tennessee counties by population, to kind of see, an over-under of, 7,000, maybe even 10,000, so we could look at their budgets. Just trying to figure it out. I have not gotten very far with it yet, but, I did check that out. So, if we could just kind of look over some stuff, do a little homework in the meantime in the week, and then maybe, something, a good idea, a bright idea will come to us of how to really just knock it out. Awesome. Well, if there's no further discussion.
So
Yeah.
we may not, that may be too much to ask from the departments, because we're off tomorrow, so
That's
the
right.
email they won't even see it till.
Well,
Right.
we can cover, you got several little items here we can cover until we
Yes,
get
we
that.
can,
Yeah.
right.
So we can go
talk
down and talk about
bonuses
bonuses, incentive,
things.
longevity, we can
It's
talk,
tomorrow.
we can,
But other things.
we can cover that meeting, we can get those other things covered.
Anniversary dates.
Yeah.
I don't get off.
We do.
Okay,
It's not fair.
awesome. All right. Any further discussion on anything? Everybody feeling good about our way ahead? I think it's great. Awesome. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second? Okay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
All right.
Now,
I'm off every
now
day.
pack this up and on to the
Are you
next
gonna-
meeting.
We're just sitting right here. You're
If
good.
they want to get, just because I did call and ask for comments. Bedford County has done the most recent salary survey.
Who's gonna send the email to us? Heather?
Heather,
Holly?